Hello, everyone. It's Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore here. Welcome to the MuseScore Café. So this is my weekly series where I talk about some aspect of making music using MuseScore, and this is the first Wednesday of the month, so we'll be doing the Ask Me Anything session. So in this session, we ask me anything, mostly about MuseScore, but I'm happy to entertain other subjects too. I see that there's some questions already queued up, and I'm looking forward to digging into them. So before I go any further, I do want to point to the pinned message at the top of the chat, where I have a link to my link to the Mastering MuseScore School, where my online courses are. Hopefully all of you have received, you're hopefully all on my newsletter mailing list and got that and know all about the new jazz piano course, Jazz Piano Holiday, I'm calling it, because I'm going to be focusing on holiday music, although the techniques are the techniques, and I will at some point find an opportunity to talk about that a little bit more as well. Anyhow, checking my sound real quick here. Hopefully, all's well. At some point. Yep. Okay. Good. So, what I'm going to do is start. So, if you've got questions that you haven't already dropped into the community, then go ahead and do that. But let me show you where. If you haven't been to the community site, it's right here, community Mastering MuseScore .com, and you might have gone there to watch this because this is where I put the links. But the conversation space here is the place where you can actually post your scores. So let me go ahead and put that link there. So that's where you can post things. So, okay, I see a real quick question here. How long should it take MuseScore to load on Windows? I don't know, 10 seconds. There are two known things that can cause MuseScore startup to be slow enough that you might have asked that question. One of them is if you've installed the MDL, MuseScore Drumline extension. The MuseScore Drumline extension involves some very large sound fonts that are that need to be loaded and then uncompressed at startup time in order to get all the realistic drum sounds. So that can take a while. Also, this isn't just on Windows, but there's another issue that can happen on any system, but definitely is more common on Windows, and that is if your default printer is on a network and it is not available, we will wait for it to become available for a long time. I think we wait for like 2 minutes and then we finally give up. So the reason we want to find your printer is because that's how we decide what your default page size should be. When you go to create a new score, we have to decide how big should that new score be by default. And, most of the world uses a A4 format, but the United States and I don't know, maybe Canada, maybe Mexico, I'm not even sure how many of the countries use letter size paper, which is similar but different because it's all inches instead of millimeters and all. So the way we decide which page size to use for new scores is we look at your default printer and decide what its default page size is, and that's or default paper size, and that's what we make the default page. So in any case, those are two things that can make it take longer than usual. Okay, so I'm now going to hop over to where the conversation space is here, and there were several scores that were posted, and I did download one or two, but they might have been updated since then. So let me just address the questions as I see them, and please, by all means, It's easy for me to miss things in the chat, so don't be afraid to type. If you ask a question and then it gets lost, just ask again, or if anyone notices a question that I'm not seeing, feel free to uh, um, just remind me. Okay, so Dallin, yeah, I don't really know, but the font isn't installed. I don't know what font you mean, Dallin, so you could feel free to let me know more about fonts. Okay, so one of the questions that came up is one that has come up several times recently, and this is an oopsie on our part. Let me tell you about this. If we look at this picture here, you can see exactly what's going on. We don't even need the score to see it. I can tell right from the picture exactly what's happened. What's happening here is he has a piece, and I can let me just create a new piece. I'll create a new piece, give it the treble template. Oh, I didn't give it a title, so I'm going to go to the add menu and say add title. And then what he did is he went to format, style, header. And instead of the default header, which just puts a page number in the corner, he went ahead and said, well, he wants to show on the first page, and he actually put some stuff in the middle. Some stuff in the middle of the header. And then let's see what happens. Oh no, look what happened. Okay, so here's the problem. MuseScore has its notion of a margin, and I'm going to turn on View, Show Page Margin, so we can actually see the margins. That's this line that's showing here. And what's happening is this is the margin area. It sort of coincides with that text frame there. And so the header is not showing up in the margin area where it belongs. It's showing up in the score area. That's not supposed to be that way. Now, in a lot of programs, there might be a third area. There might be the margin area, the header area, and then the score area, or like in a word processor, the text area. MuseScore doesn't have that. We intended this stuff to be in the margin, and the footer is in the margin, but the header is not. And so if you've got a page number in the corner, but you've got like a rehearsal mark or something, a coda sign or a segno or something that's also in the corner, they can collide. So here's what you need to do. You're going to go to Format, Style, and instead of actually the header footer, we're going to go to Text Styles, take the header style, and these things aren't in alphabetical order for a number of reasons. One is because certain things like chord symbols, Roman numeral, Nashville numbers should kind of be together logically, even though they're not in alphabetical order, or title, subtitle, composer, those should logically be together. But also in different languages, alphabetical order means different things, right? It'd be a totally different order every time someone used a different language, and that makes it harder to document and support. So in any case, here we go. Header is all that kind of stuff is at the beginning, the kind of global things. So header, I'm going to produce a negative offset here, a negative Y offset of, I believe, about 4 or 5 millimeters work. So 4 millimeters you can see, and as I change it, you can see it moving, right? Hey, wait a minute, I set my demo. Why is it not showing my keystrokes? Huh, don't know why. It's always something though, right? So a -4 or so offset gets the header out of the score area. And you can kind of fine tune things. If you need to make your margin bigger to make room for it, by all means, you can change your margins in Format, Page Settings, and there's all your margins. So yeah, if you want to fiddle with your margin sizes, there's all sorts of fiddling you can do to get the exact layout you want. Um, so, um, so Dallin, the drumline sound font. Oh, I thought you meant just a regular text font. So if you've got, so if you're sure you don't have those, so be sure. So we're going to go to View, Synthesizer, and then go to the Zerberus tab. And well, might as well just go to both these tabs, Fluid and Zerberus, and make sure that you don't have a whole ton of stuff there, because whatever you got there, it's going to have to load. MDL isn't like broken or anything. It's just an example of a very large set of sound fonts that people often have installed and don't realize that that's why it's slowing them down. But basically, if you have anything but the default sound font here, it's going to add to the startup time. Okay, so I see you've got another question about the node input, and I'll get to that. But while I'm over here looking at some of the sample scores, I want to take a look at some of that. So here's one from Peter about chord symbols and positioning and so forth. So I'm going to grab this score, download it to my and this one I know was just posted this morning. At least I only got notification this morning. So that's why I don't have it already. Here we go. So if I open this score, all right, so he's got chord symbols that he's placed on a staff, which, okay, that's a thing for sure. But he's only got them on that staff and doesn't have it on these other staves, so I'm assuming that that's part of the question. So the score lead sheet puts the chord symbols well above the melody line in an invisible staff. Oh, okay. So yeah, so first of all, my first question is why do that? If just regular chord symbols above the staff like lead sheets normally have them, um, that's maybe what I would recommend because that's the way most published music does it. But so you've got them on an invisible staff. Okay, so I think so. I'm not quite sure, Peter. If you're here, if you could maybe answer, give me a little more information about what you're going to trying to do here. But if this is kind of what you're looking for, is the chord symbols kind of on that staff, then let me reset the position of this one to see what you've done here. So you've set it. So I'm not actually understanding exactly how you did this here. I'm going to actually just delete that chord symbol and I'm going to add a new one. So this is where it's showing up by default, right? So here's what I would do. If you want it to be on the staff by default, then what you want to do is you want to set it. So I'm going to move it onto the staff. It looks like you had made them larger also, because maybe it was the lead sheet template. I don't know. But it's 14-point font, and I'm moving it onto the staff using the offset here, and then I'm going to set that as the style. And that will cause all the other chords to want to go there as well. Now, these aren't for various reasons because you've already customized their position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all my chord symbols and hit Control-R to reset their positions. Okay, so it looks like what's going on? This chord symbol actually, I think, it's applied to the bottom staff. So don't do that. If you want it to appear on the top staff, don't attach it to the bottom staff. Attach it to the top staff. So here, A minor 7, flat 5. There we go. Oh, yes, and I also wanted to make 14-point the default. So I'll hit the Set as Style button there. So that's what you should do. Don't attach them to one staff, then move them on to the other. That's going to be problematic because, well, for a number of reasons. One is you don't know how far away that other staff is. You know how far it is right now, but that could change as you add notes to your score. So some chord symbols can't be moved because they extend to the next measure. So which ones? So if you're talking about things like this, or maybe you're talking about this one you're having trouble moving. So first of all, if you just try to move this one, I'm going to try to drag it. And then I'll have to disable autoplace for it. It's kind of a mess to do it that way. So I'm not sure exactly what you're running into, but if you do it the way I'm describing, it won't be a problem. Let's see, I'm going to go to the fourth beat and then type in C7 flat 9. And okay, so I think I see what you're saying. So this one is colliding with that bar line, and so therefore it tries to move it above. So I will disable autoplace for it. Oops, not for this chord, but this chord here. Disable autoplace, and now it is okay that it collides with the bar line. Now, if your question is, well, I don't want it to collide with the bar line at all, well, then in that case, let's take another approach. Let's just move this chord. I will select it and then just move it to the left. And now it doesn't collide with that bar line. Did I have to move it too far to make that happen? Well, in that case, let's select this measure and use the right curly brace to widen the measure so we have a little more space to work with. There's multiple solutions to that particular problem. So in any case, yeah, so definitely, Peter, don't try to do it what you've been doing. Do it the way I did it, where you actually put the chord on the right in the right measure, because then autoplace can do its job more correctly, and you won't have to fight it as much. But yeah, it's definitely the case that in measure 14, this D7 is colliding. But if I delete it, the chord symbol, and add it back, where was it? Must have been here. And it was on beat. Was it on beat 3 or 4? It was on. So you have it on beat 2, which I don't know if you did that deliberately or not, but maybe so, because there's the melody. So I'm going to go ahead and do it the same way. I'm going to enter, not note entry. I'm going to enter a chord symbol here of wrong measure, A minor 7, and then on the next beat, D7 flat 13 or whatever that was. I've actually forgotten. And at this point, it actually doesn't have that problem anymore. So what did I do wrong? I think I have a different chord. Oh, it's flat 9, sharp 11. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these two chords, delete them, and paste them up here. And so, yeah, this is the one with the problem. So I think in this case, if you just widen the measure slightly, it falls back into place. So again, if you use the style setting to place it on the staff, MuseScore can do its job relatively automatically, but you might need to create a little extra room to avoid the bar lines, or move the chord to the left to avoid the bar line, or just turn off autoplace for that chord, and then it'll be allowed to cross the bar line. Okay, so Dallin, yes, if you've got a bunch of sound fonts under Zerberus and you're not using them, if they have the word MDL, MuseScore drumline, in them, that's what they're for. And if you're not using the MuseScore drumline extension, then yeah, to delete those sound fonts for sure. Okay, there was one other random question. Oh yes, I know what it was, about note input. So the note input options here, step time is the normal note input mode. So this is the one we're always using most of the time by default. But let me show you the other ones. Repitch. If I'm going to go to that score again, Foggy Day score, and show you what repitch mode does. In repitch mode, if I want to type new pitches but keep the same rhythm, I can do that now. So see how it's da 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 dum. I can change it to D, C, A, B, and notice it kept the rhythm, quarter, 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 dotted half. So this is a way to quickly take an existing line and enter, say, a harmony part. Like if you know you want, if you're going to make, you've got a melody line and you want to make a harmony in on another staff, like maybe you're arranging for a saxophone section and you've written the first alto line, and then you copy that down to the second alto line. You want to keep that rhythm but change the pitches. This is how you do it. You just type your new pitches. So, and I think it also works to just click. No, I think if you click, you actually have to shift click to make it replace. Otherwise it builds a chord for you. So in any case, repitch mode does that. Now, the next mode is rhythm mode. And repitch mode, by the way, is also kind of useful for entering drum stuff when you combine it with rhythm mode. In rhythm mode, let me go back to a new score here now. In rhythm mode, like if you think about how most note input works, you select a duration, then you type a pitch. Rhythm mode doesn't wait for you to type a pitch. It enters a note as soon as you click a duration. So as soon as I say quarter note, it puts a note. Eighth note, there's a note. Another eighth note, there's a note. Now, how does it know what note to pick? Well, it starts off in the middle of the staff. But let me go ahead and do this as a drum staff here, and you'll see how kind of cool this is. This is why we implemented it this way, is specifically for drums. I can enter a note, and it's some random note. But I can then use the arrow keys to change its pitch to something else. And let's say that what I want is that right there. All right. Now, and of course, I could have used shortcuts or anything else. But what I can do now, it's going to remember that pitch. And if I type another quarter note, it's going to enter another one of the same pitch. And more notes of that same pitch. So it's a way of quickly entering a rhythm. When you know you either don't know the pitches yet and you plan to fix them later, or you know they're all going to be the same pitch. So repitch mode enters just the rhythm. And then, rhythm mode enters just the rhythm. And then repitch mode would allow you to go back and change those. Like I could go back to repitch mode now and go back to the beginning here and type some shortcuts, and it will remember that rhythm. So it keeps that same rhythm. So that's that mode. Now, the real-time modes, I just showed them last week, 2 weeks ago. So go ahead and watch the cafe from last week, and you'll see what the real-time modes do. They're for MIDI input. And by the way, for anyone who missed it, yes, 2 minutes after end of cafe, I finally figured out how to get the MIDI output working to my keyboard. I had to use the MIDI mapper device instead of the MIDI output device, instead of actually selecting the device directly. But then it started working even when I selected the device directly. So it's just one of those temporary glitches. What I did in the cafe should have worked. At some point, I also turned the sound off on my keyboard, or the volume all the way down, but I don't think that was the case the whole time. Okay, so the insert mode is a special mode for cases where you want more beats in a measure, like if you're writing a cadenza. And so I actually showed that a couple weeks ago too. I think it was talking about time signatures. But if I enter some notes here, you'll see that as I enter the notes, it's just widening the measure, adding more beats as I enter those notes. If I change to eighth notes, it'll let me enter eighth notes, 16th, enter 16th, and it's just widening the measure as I go. So this can be useful if you're writing a cadenza or maybe Renaissance music or any other type of music in which you don't need a specific number of beats in every measure. And then when you're done, you can just delete those extra rests, select them, Control delete, because it put rests at the end of, basically that was the rest you started with. So, or you could, fill up the measure with notes and then add more. But I took an empty measure and did that, so it started inserting them at the beginning. So that's what that one does. Okay, so does MuseScore have a ukulele tablature staff? Yes, it does. So I'm going to go to the input, the instruments window here, instruments, and I'm going to type ukulele, and there's ukulele tablature. I will double click that, hit OK, and boom, I got some ukulele tablature. So now I can enter a chord, right? Or if I want that chord, let's delete this junk here so we can hear this lovely chord I just put in there, right? So that's how you get that. So basically, it was just a matter of going to the instruments and typing ukulele in, or typing the first few letters, which are uku, not uke, right? It's not ukulele, it's ukulele, even though we call it a uke, for short. So if you type uku into the search box, you see just the ukuleles there. What happens is, by default, when you open this, you're only looking at what we call the common instruments, which are the instruments we think people might use. And oh, there's ukulele tablature there too. I was thinking maybe it didn't show up by default, but it does. It's right there under strings plucked. So ukulele tablature. So it's available even under common instruments, but there's others that are not. Like, okay, remember, let's look at woodwinds, and here we've got the saxophones, and you see there's 4 saxophones: soprano, alto, tenor, and baritone. But remember, during office hours yesterday, Colleen, we were looking at Anthony Braxton, a picture of him playing this ridiculous contraption that was a contrabass saxophone, I think. There's a lot of different, so I'm going to type saxophone in here, and we see all these different options now that show up. There's the C melody saxophone, there's a bass saxophone, contrabass, and sub-contrabass saxophone. I don't think that one was the sub-contrabass. The sub-contrabass, I think you literally have to get on a ladder to play. I think that was contrabass, although I think Jim said he thought it was a bass saxophone. Whatever, it's one of these big guys. And there's all the smaller ones too, like sopranino saxophone. I think the sopranino gets used in Bolero, Ravel's Bolero, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong about that. Okay, so let's jump back to the community here, and there was another one just posted recently. Let me refresh the screen, see if there's anything else just posted in the last 15 minutes here. And this question from, I think it said Nick. Trying out Dune. Wow. I totally missed something. But where's the question and the score? So the question is from Nick Chapman, and oh, okay, perfect. And you asked about this also on the MuseScore group, on the Mastering MuseScore group, which is kind of dead actually on MuseScore.com. So great, I didn't have a name to put to your handle there. So you've got this score here, and it uses a technique that is problematic. And I'm not saying you're doing something. Oh, you disabled download. So you'll have to enable download, Nick, if you're here. But I'll show people what this technique is, and like, I don't know where it happens. You might have to tell me where it happens, because it doesn't seem to be at the beginning, and I'm not sure that I'll easily. Well, maybe a quick scan of the score will make it pop up. But what it is a thing called local time signatures. And local time signatures are a thing that we implemented specifically because Bach did it, not because modern music necessarily does it. But let me show you what it is. So I'm going to create a new score, and I'm going to just choose 2 instruments. I'm going to make it a flute and an oboe. And one's in 4/4 and the other's in 4/4, but I'm going to change that. I want to make one of them be 12/8 instead. So I'm going to go to time signatures, and I'm going to control click. So I select the 4/4 here, and then control click 12/8 here. That's not how you do it. I guess you have to control drag. All right, what am I doing wrong? Nick, so I haven't used local time signatures in so long. I've actually apparently completely forgotten. Okay, maybe if I select the measure, control click, bingo, there we go. So that's the solution. So I selected the measure and then control clicked. And so now I can have 4/4 on this staff and have, oh, I'm still in insert mode, silly me. Let me undo all those and go back to step time mode. And it'll remember what mode you're in, which is what happened, right? I had left node input mode. I'd even changed scores, and it remembered I was in insert mode. So now I'm in step time mode, 4 quarter notes. Let's enter 8/8 notes. So you can see that's what 4/4 looks like. If I come to the oboe staff and enter 4 dotted quarters, they're all going to line up. And now if I enter 8th notes, they're going to be in groups of 3. If I do try to enter quarter notes, I'm going to get, I guess, 6 of them, which isn't correct notation in 12/8, but I'll put that against the 4 here. So it lets you do this and calculates all the spacing relatively correctly, so that yes, this, if I play this, you're going to hear, well, this, let me slow it down a little bit. I'm actually going to just use the tempo panel here to slow it down a little bit. So I'll slow it down some more. Let me change the pitches here to make it easier. That'll maybe make it a little easier to hear. And maybe if I change the pitches a little more. And let's change these pitches too. I'm just trying to make sure you can hear how it really is a 3 against 2. Right? So there we go. So that was slowed to a ridiculous amount there. But back up to tempo. So we get eighth notes, we get essentially triplets here, but 12/8, so we don't need to write them as triplets. So local time signatures are a cool feature when you need it to do this, but unfortunately, it is quite broken. No, it's not. It's not that broken, but it's very limited. So, for instance, what if we're like, oh, now that I've done that, let me just copy and paste these 2 beats over. Oh no, I can't do it. So what happened is I tried to do Control C, and it says, nope, you can't. And the message says select the complete triplet, which is very misleading, but for reasons that are stupid. Well, they're not stupid. It's there was a bug with copy and paste that we could not fix like a week before the release of MuseScore 2. This is like 6 years ago I'm talking about. 6.5 years ago. And right shortly before MuseScore 2, we were getting ready to release, and this local time signature feature was brand new, and we discovered this bug with copy and paste that was going to be just a complicated mess to fix. So we decided to disable it, but it was only a week before. No, it was like hours before release, I think, actually. And the messages, the error messages had frozen because we'd already done all the translations and all that. So I had to reuse an existing error message to tell you, no, you can't do this copy and paste. And so we used an error message involving triplets, and no one has gone back and fixed it since. But in any case, you can't copy and paste anything. You can't even copy paste a single staff. Try to do. Oh, can I? Is it going to let me? Oh my gosh, look at that. You can. I'm totally lying, but I can't on this staff. That's the problem. I can't on the staff that has the local time signature. So in any case, it is a limitation that you can't copy and paste. Another limitation is if you've already generated parts for your score, you won't be able to. If you've already created parts for your score, then you won't be able to create a local time signature, or problems will ensue. There's other limitations in it. If the measures aren't empty, then you won't be able to create a local time signature. They got to start off empty, because otherwise, when you try to create the local time signature, it's going to have to recalculate how long all those notes are, and it says, "No, I can't. I can't figure that out." Oh, good. It looks like he's got it downloadable now. So nope, still access denied, unfortunately. So yeah, I still need you to set that to be downloadable in order to be able to do that. So anyhow, in any case, Nick was saying that he had problems with this score, and I believe it. I believe it because there are limitations and some out and out bugs. But time signature, as soon as you try to enter further notes, particularly in the harp and celesta, things go wrong. So yeah, so it would really require some really specific steps to reproduce, and it's probably a better question for the support forum to try to handle that. But in any case, I want to scan here and see. Okay, so Nick, but yeah, feel free to give me more questions there. Show a linked regular and uke staff, because yeah, that's cool. So let's do that. Let's go back to my score that has the ukulele, and this time I press I to get back to that instruments dialog. I've got that ukulele staff there, and now I'm just going to say, I have to select the staff itself, and I'm going to say add staff. No, I'm going to say add linked staff. When I add a linked staff, now this staff is also set to be tab, but I'm going to change it to stand. Actually, I'll change the which one would normally be. I think normally you have standard notation on top and tab on the bottom, so I'll change the top one to be standard. So notice what happened now. All I did was I entered that tab, but it automatically calculated the notes. And if I change the notes, like if I change this A to a B, notice that this, let me undo that. This was a 0, that was an A. As soon as I change that to an A sharp, this automatically changes to a 1. As soon as I change that to a B, that changes to a 2. So yeah, linked staves are very cool. All right. So is there a way to turn off note put input while entering lyrics? I'm a little bit confused because why would you be in note input mode if you're entering lyrics? It should already be off. And clicking, if you're not in note input mode, won't mess up anything. So I'm a little confused as to what you mean there. Normally, when you enter lyrics, you're not in note input mode, so that's not a problem. So yeah, I guess I would need to have a little more information about what you mean about that. So Alan is asking, does it have a? So I don't know if this is a typo, a clarineo, but if you mean clarinet, then clarinet is absolutely nouveau clarineo. Nouveau chase. I don't know what this is, but okay, let's Google it, shall we? Nouveau Clara. Okay, so the first thing I can tell you is, so what is this? It's a clarinet in the key of C, much lighter and smaller. So does that mean it's pitched a whole octave higher or just a step higher? Because if it's just a step higher, it would only be a little smaller. But in any case, you know, for custom instruments like that, yes, you can create these very easily. I'll go here, I'll add a clarinet, and I'm going to type clarinet into here just to see if there's a C clarinet already. Well, look at that. There is a C clarinet already. So bingo. So there's my C clarinet. Oops. Let me actually double click it to add it to the score first. Clarinet, C clarinet. So now I've got my C clarinet. And the thing is, I don't know if that C. Let's read up about this a little bit more. It's plastic, obviously. Based on how big that mouthpiece looks compared to the rest of it, I am now guessing this might be a full octave. I can't really tell from this. But in any case, if you decide that it should sound like a recorder, if it's the same length as a recorder, then it sounds a soprano recorder. It sounds an octave higher than written. So we can make that happen. I'll right-click the staff, go to Staff Part Properties, and set the transposition to be 1 octave. 1 octave down. That means it sounds 1 octave lower than written. And nope, that's not what we want. We want it to sound an octave higher than written. So that's what we want. So now we can write middle C, but get the C an octave higher. If you don't want it to say C clarinet, you want it to actually include the brand name there, Nouveau clarinet. So what did I do here? I double clicked the name, and now I want to change the part name. That's what will show up in the mixer, and also if you generate parts from a score. And then I will change the long instrument name. That's what shows up on the first system, and I'll change the short instrument name. That's what shows up on subsequent systems. So now Nouveau clarinet and cool. Now, As far as the sound goes, if it sounds different enough from a regular clarinet that you feel like you would want a custom sound font for it, you're welcome to download a custom sound font if someone has created one. It's not a standard instrument, not part of the general MIDI standard, so it's unlikely MuseScore won't have that sound by default because it's not part of the general MIDI standard. And since it is a really specialized thing, I kind of doubt that you'll find a sound font that has that specific sample already, but maybe you will. And in any case, it's possible to create your own sound fonts, but you need to investigate sound font editors for that. Okay, so Jim says it's closed pipe, so it will say, oh, it's closed pipe. Okay, I didn't even notice that. So there we go. So it could be smaller, but still sound at pitch, you're saying. That's good to know. All right. Okay, so another header footer question. You want to make, okay. So Sora's asking a question that I wish I had a better answer for, but I'm going to do my best anyhow. So the question is wanting the I'm going to go to the style menu by this clever way of actually I think I can right click the header, no, double click the header, and it takes me to the style dialog. It doesn't always work. It's a relatively new thing and it's a little squirrely, but it often does work. So left side, right side. All right, so we've got now our header, but the desire is to have different sized fonts. So the thing is, no, this isn't supported directly exactly. However, I do believe there's a trick that'll work. What I'm going to do, and it's going to take a little trial and error here, I'm going to hover my mouse in here to see, first of all, if someone had the foresight to put the information in the little help text there. They didn't. But I think it goes like this. I think if I type, there's like a special code. It's not HTML, but it kind of looks like HTML. Font size equals, no, font dash size 8. Did that do it? That looks like it did not do it. Let me make it smaller still. No, that's not it. How about equals? No. How about font space size? Anyhow, play around with this enough. It is possible to put tags in here, but it's not literal HTML. It's like some special thing. But if I do put in bold, do I need to close that tag? You know, maybe I'm wrong. Did that work? No. Or was it already bold? That already is bold. Yeah, let's try. So in any case, there are tags, if you can figure them out, that can be put in there. I want to convince myself that I'm not telling a complete lie. I'm gonna try italic. Does that do it? No. What if I hit OK? Usually these things update immediately, but some things require you to hit OK. Let me try just I. Haha, just I does it, right? So yes, it is possible to put some things in here. What if I try small? That used to be an HTML thing. No. Anyhow, yeah, if you want to do some trial and error, you can probably find the magic tags that will allow you to override the font within there. So so there you go. Okay, so tablature for violin. So yes, if you mean it's going to work just like guitar tablature, you can do it. However, what I will say is, if I add a violin to my score, let's do that. Of strings, bowed, violin. I got violin now, and I'll enter a note. If I try then to go here and select that staff and say add linked staff, and I try to change it to tablature, well, there is a custom tablature option. There's no way it's going to work. Yeah, it did not, in fact, do that, right? And this is because MuseScore doesn't know the tuning of the violin because it wasn't expecting that was. I mean, it should know the tuning of a violin, but it wasn't expecting you to want to do tablature for it, so no one bothered to enter that information. So you're going to have to do it yourself. Now, trick here: ukulele and violin have the same tuning, or they're a fifth apart? Help me out here. What's the low string on a ukulele? It's C, right? Is it ukulele is the same tuning as a viola? Is that correct? In which case, if you add a ukulele, you'll have almost the right thing and you just have to change it. So, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it's possible to add that information directly. So I'm going to try that first. I'm going to go to Staff Part Properties. And then, let's see. Oh, I guess it just doesn't have string data. If it doesn't have string data, you can't edit it. So I guess you really do, because I'm looking here, this is where the string data info would be. So I guess it's not there. So I'm going to go ahead and add the ukulele because why not? So add ukulele tablature. And I'll go into staff part properties for the ukulele and change this to say violin tablature. And we'll change this to say violin. Change this to say violin. And now you see there's the information about string data. And I do want to use single note dynamics because violins are capable of it. Ukulele is not. And then I will say edit string data. And now, oh, it is the same as the violin. Yeah, okay, so there we go. It's the same as the violin. So, no, wait a minute. What am I doing? It's not the same as the violin because it's all rearranged, right? Ukulele's got that strange tuning. I know. I just forget, right? So, what do I want to do? I'm going to try. These strings are right? The G. It's G3, and then yeah, I just got to start over. So I'm just going to edit the strings. It's G2. It's mandolin that's the same as viola, right? Is that right? Yeah, I definitely know violin tuning. I'm just trying to think of what's the same as the others. So it's mandolin that's the same as like viola, I think, or something like that. I know there's something that's the same as something else, like surprising like that. So it's G is the low string, but it's not G4, right? It's G3. So I need to find G3 in here and set that to be that low string. And then the next string is D4. This isn't bingo. And then the next string is A4. Oops, A4. And then the last string is E5. Let's E5. Because middle C is C4. All right. Now, if I've done my job right, let's also, while we're at it, change the playback sound, shall we? So that it sounds like a violin. Violin expert because it's using single note dynamics. So now, if I enter on this string a 0, I should get high E. And if I add a linked staff here, a linked staff, oops, I did the wrong one. It's this guy here. It still thinks it's ukulele tablature, but we know better. Add linked staff, and I will make the top one standard. Bingo. There we go. I got my E. So now I have, if I enter bottom to top, 0, 0, 0, I get my violin. So that I think I've finally done correctly. So also notice the red there for that G. That's because the ukulele doesn't have that note. It's out of range. I really should change these ranges here. the range here is not starting at C4, but starting on G3, G3, and it doesn't matter if you're amateur or not, you can all play a G3. The top range is much different depending on how professional you are. So, I'll let you choose what you think reasonable ranges are here, or you can just turn off the warnings entirely. But now it'll, oh, I obviously did something way wrong because now they're all red, right? So what did I do wrong? I must have set the top note when I meant to set the bottom note. Is that what happened? Is this the top note? Maybe so. Oh, amateur. Okay, silly me. Okay, silly me. Bottom note, and then this is top note. I thought I was setting the amateur and professional bottom notes, but no, I wasn't paying attention. So this is amateur, bottom and top, and now this is professional bottom and top. Okay, so now they're all nicely colored. So what else have I missed? I can probably try to squeeze in a couple more here. Violin, same as mandolin. Thank you. I knew there was something that I knew. I knew that there was some bell going off in my head about similarity of instruments. So it looks like there's more discussion of this taking piano score to string score, change ukulele. So taking a piano score and changing to string. So if you've already written something for piano, what I'm going to recommend you do is you right click this thing, go to staff part. Actually, let me just add a real piano because that's like this weird like default piano that's that you see in that default empty score. Let's add an actual piano. And let's just create a new score, because when you start playing around with adding instruments, and some of them have single staves, some of them have double staves, it doesn't always get the braces right. So let's just add a new grand staff here. And if I change this to violin, I'm going to go to staff part properties. Notice that single note dynamics is off. If I change instrument to violin, I think it fixes that for me. It changes to single note dynamics for me, and it gets the ranges correct, right? So it did all that for me just by changing instrument. Now, if for some reason you don't want to change the instrument, you want to keep the instrument as piano for whatever reason, but you only use the mixer to change the playback sound, then yeah, you'd have to come here also and change that if you want the single note dynamics. But normally that's not what you would want. Normally, if you're changing from piano to violin, you'd want to change everything: the staff name, the range, the transposition, if there was one. Single note dynamics, you want to change all those things. So change instrument from this dialog, from the instruments, from the staff part properties dialog does that. Okay, so I mentioned also that I need to give you a little more of a commercial. So sorry about this, but there'll be things that come up from this. So in my Christmas my jazz piano holiday, I'm going to be using MuseScore in the examples as well as the piano. And one of my points is that if we think about jazz as usually involving improvisation, I'm not going to be talking about improvisation. I'm going to talk about the notes we actually want to play, whether you improvise them or compose them. So everything that I talk about is something you could do compose. So if you haven't already seen it, I just want to walk through this score here. Right, so here I'm showing two staves because I'm writing for piano, and we're going to go through it this way. You're going to start by just writing out your melody. Then you're just going to add kind of whole notes for one chords, four chords, and five chords. Then I'm going to have you go through and take those fives and expand them to two fives. And then I'll show you some things about adding some other chords, four chords and three chords and six chords. And then we'll talk about adding additional notes in the inner voices. And, we'll eventually talk about these little moving lines, these things like that. And then, I'll talk about block chords that move like that. And all these things, in order to become a good improviser, being able to do that on the fly, this is years of effort. But to just apply this to one song, I can get you there in 6 weeks, I promise. So, maybe you won't, do the world's best arrangement, but I can really show you a lot there. And we will use MuseScore as well as at the piano to be doing this. So, in any case, there you go. So, since mandolin is the same, there you go, Lisa. That's or Lisa Joe. That looks like a good answer for you. So, there you go. Are there plans to update the tablature stems for half and whole notes? Kyle, no, you don't have to do that. So let's answer Kyle's question here. There are multiple standards for how tablature works. And so you're looking at the default, which is the one used by, I forget which publisher, Hal Leonard or someone or other. We copied it from some major publisher. But let me enter some more notes here. Let me enter another note here. Let's make this be a quarter note, and then I'll repeat it. Oops. Make this one a half note, and then here I will enter a whole note. All right. So this is the default style here. And you can see in the default style, it's actually just using lengths of the stems to indicate this. But this is all customizable. So if I right click this staff and then say, actually, if I even just go to the instrument menu, this is this staff here. Notice it says tab ukulele, tab 4-string full. If I pick that one, now I get the version that you're talking about with the strokes. Or if I go back there and pick the common style, that's one where I get the short stems. And if I go back there, I'm just pressing I for the instruments dialog. If I pick the simple style, I get no stems. And I think there's other options also. I think if I now right click this and go to staff part properties, advanced style properties, note values, this gives you all these other options to, this, if you want to see note symbols, well, this shows notes above the staff. You can see a little preview here of what it's going to seem like. So this actually shows you what the note values look like in standard notation. Or you can use stems and beams, and in this version, it's using half notes. Do you want nothing? Do you want a short stem, or do you want slashes? Right. So all this stuff is customizable, as is whether you show rests. So pretty much anything that a major publisher uses, we provide as an option in here. If there's anything used by a major publisher that's not in here, then it's probably in the symbols palette, and you could just add it manually. You shouldn't need a custom graphic. But if not, go ahead and post to the support forum and show the example from a published score. And if it's really not in the symbols palette, that's because it's missing from the SMOOFL standard. Therefore, we need to get it added to that standard. And that standard is managed by a company in, I guess they're in Germany. I don't know where Steinberg is located, but probably Germany. So circles around numbers within the so yeah, emailing me won't really help. You need to go to the support forum for that, because that's where the developers who actually work on this stuff would be likely to see it. I'm not familiar with the circle style, so you'd want to maybe post a scan from a published example, or maybe a link to a published example so people can see it. And if it's the sort of thing that requires a custom symbol that's not already present, then we'll probably direct you to go to the SMOOFL website to request that symbol get added, because we can't really use the symbol unless it's part of the SMOOFL standard, because that's how we reference fonts. So in any case, if it's something that's used by a major publisher, absolutely we should be able to support it. And if we don't currently, go to the support forum on musescore.org, and we can help you out. So I'm caught up, am I not? I think I'm caught up. So I'm I'm gonna say that I am. And again, I'm gonna just give a last little whoops, what did I do? It doesn't even matter. A last little I don't know, plea or call for people to join my course. I think you'll really get a lot out of it. I think you'll be amazed at how much I can teach you in 6 weeks about creating this kind of stuff. So whether you've heard it or not, you're going to hear it again. Instead of going out with my theme song, I'm going to go out with this arrangement of "Oh Christmas Tree," in which I start from nothing, just a melody, and then gradually layer in everything. And this is essentially how we're going to go about learning this stuff, except, you'll layer the stuff in starting at the beginning, so it won't start, your arrangement won't need to start off this simple. So I want to thank everyone for being here. Thanks for all your questions. And Dave, what did you just get here? Dave, no, daylight savings time hasn't clicked in, but next week it does. Maybe yours did. Maybe in your country it did. In the United States, daylight savings time kicks in next week. So that will change the time for many of you, if you're outside the United States and you don't do daylight savings time the same way we do. So here we go. Okay, here comes a 2/5. More chords now. And then some chorale style voicings, just half notes, but nice ones. Little bass fills. And now these moving lines, these block chords, that particular technique are called drop 2 voicings. And now just everything. Everything in there I can show you how to do. I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and you'll be seeing all the music that people are creating in the music masterclass. And if you join, I'll get to hopefully look at yours as well. So thanks everyone for being here, and I will close out with the cafe theme music because why not? It's just tradition. So thanks everyone again. This has been the MuseScore Cafe. We do this every Wednesday. First Wednesday of the month are these Ask Me Anything sessions, and I just go all over the place answering as many questions as I can, and you all keep me on my toes, which is fantastic. And I've started a new tradition now where the third week is going to be this page of the month. So by all means, go to the community, post some examples of PDFs that you would like me to enter a page from, like I did last a couple weeks ago, where that really complicated Broadway show conductor score page that I did. And man, I got a lot done. I covered a lot of territory there. Maybe next time we'll get something a little simpler. Get me some suggestions for that coming up in a couple weeks. Next week will just be some random topic, and we'll see what it is. But I will see you all next time. And please, by all means, click the link pinned at the top and check out the jazz piano holiday course. I think you will just have a ball.